Hello everyone and welcome to Katharine's Creatures. This is a series where I get to talk a little bit about and touch base upon various mythological beings and the like pulled from lore worldwide. And I always like to preface by saying that I am not a linguist, so if I mispronounce anything, I do apologize in advance. Today I wanted to talk about a particular trio from Greek mythology, and if you are familiar with Greek mythology and of course Rome thereafter, they both utilize a lot of these some kind of groupings. And in this particular case, I wanted to talk about one that's kind of lesser known, and this is a group known together as hopefully again I pronounce this close to being accurate, the Hecatoncheires. And the Hecatoncheires are essentially, the name loosely translates 100-handed ones. And we'll get to that in a moment. They're also known as the 100-handers and the Centimanes or Centimanes. Again, I don't know which way you pronounce it accurately. But the Hecatoncheires are these three monstrous giants that were known to be both enormous in both their size and their strength. Each of them were said to have about 50 heads and 100 arms. Now, each individual Hecatoncheires giant has its own name, and some of them have more stories associated with them individually than others, because most of the stories, though they were grouped together, some of them had their individual tales. Now, the giants each have their names, and one of which was Cotus, and that translates to the Furious. Then there's Briareus, or Aegean, and that one loosely traits to the sea goat. And the third of the party is Gyges or Gaius, and that one translates to long-limbed. So these three were essentially brothers in a sense. They were the offspring of a particular pairing of primordial deities, Uranus and Gaia, who together had numerous offspring. Some of them were often known for at least 18 individuals, and again, depending on the tale, some of that varies, but the Hecatoncheires were three of their children. And in the stories, why they're interesting is because in Greek myths, there is a time where the generations that will become the 12 Olympian gods are trying to take and kind of overthrow their parents' generations, so the Titans. And in the particular tale called Titanomachy, really does delve into this particular era of Greek myth. And in this, again, these three giants side, more often than not, they side with Zeus and the fellow Olympians in this giant anarchical time where they're overthrowing the Titans from their grips. Now, interestingly, also the Titans, which were about 12 of them, and a particular group of Cyclops were also considered the Hecatoncheires' siblings. So all of them could claim parentage of Uranus and Gaia or Gaius, depending on, again, the story and lineage. Most of them link them back, so they were actually siblings. And so talk about sibling rivalry right there. Now, after Zeus and the Olympians, along with those that helped him, like these three giants, when they finally overcame the Titans and imprisoned them, the three Hecatoncheires were assigned to be pretty much the prison guards of the Titans, to make sure they can never rise again. So you have these three immense, massive giants, multi-limbed, multi-headed, that guard the Titans till the end of time. Now, outside of that particular story, which is their most notable one, there are a lot of individual writers of this particular era of Greek myth, and depending on their interpretations, this is where there are variations in the story. And in particular, the one who has the most stories about him was Briareus, again, aka Aegean. And this particular giant, one of the stories says that because Poseidon, the god of the sea, was so thrilled that they overcame the Titans, he offered one of his daughters to become the wife of that particular giant. and so they became he married Poseidon's daughter in that case. Now, there are other stories. Again, here's the fun thing about myths and legends and variations. Certain stories say that particular giant, even though for the most part he was considered a good character, there are tales where he actually was on the side of the Titans and thus was actually against Zeus and the rest of the Olympians. So again, it is fascinating to me that you can have such fairly dramatic differences in a mythos just depending on era that story was told and then later documented, and who was a writer and who was the original source, etc., so on. But for the most part, all three giants were considered good and on the side of what was right and justice and etc. And the other thing that they're more often associated with than not is the sea. So there's a lot of links if you dove into their stories and references that kind of connect those three giants with references to the sea and the ocean. But beyond all that, if you have any questions for me about this or any other kind of mythological reference, fantasy, writing, etc., so on, please post them in the comments below or message me on any of my other social media. And until next time, everyone, Skål.